Welcome to the Trojans Live Signing Day Special, presented by your Southern California BMW Centers on the Beast 980, where we feed on LA sports. Today was a great day to become a Trojan, with 24 of the country's most talented prep football players signing up to create the nation's #1 recruiting class. And tonight, we will break it down with head coach Steve Sarkisian, USCFootball.com recruiting expert Ryan Abraham, and 2015 signees Marvell Tell III and Ronald Jones II. I am Jordan Moore alongside John Jackson and JJ. I've seen the Dodgers bullpen. I've seen the Angels bullpen. You might be sitting next to the best closer in Los Angeles right now. Sark did it again. What'd you think?
No question about it. Just amazing. I mean, just the way the stories unfolded. With all these guys that are so highly ranked and waiting till the last day, the nerves were definitely there. And just for them to come to SC and, the way that they went about their announcements, there's some unique announcements, obviously, today, that we had a chance to see as well. It's just a great day to be a Trojan. And, you give credit to Sark and his staff, once again, for pulling off a similar scenario that he did a year ago.
All right, let's talk to the coach, brought to you by your Southern California BMW Centers. Take advantage of limited-time lease and finance offers available now at your Southern California BMW Centers. Visit SoCalBMW.com today for details. All right, Coach, first #1 class for USC since 2010. How did it come together seemingly to script as you look over the last few weeks and then the last 48 hours and then today? It seemed like you guys got the guys you wanted.
Well, I think we had a good plan. Jordan, we had a year, and so it was really calculated on, first of all, what are our needs, what are our numbers at each position, what are we looking for? Two, okay, let's start developing those relationships with those kids. Three, let's be honest with the ones that might be in limbo. And then four, let's just rely on the relationships that we've developed with the recruits, what the recruits have developed with our current roster. And then lastly, let's rely on our brand. And we've got an amazing brand. USC is a powerful place. And all in all, it worked out again. It wasn't nearly as chaotic as a year ago. It was a lot more calculated ultimately, but the end result was very similar. We're really happy with where we're sitting today.
It's really amazing because I get so many phone calls and texts, with the days leading up, to signing day about what this guy going to do with, this, that, and the other. For you guys as a staff, I mean, do you feel comfortable where you're at, or is it still as nerve-wracking as it is for the Trojan fans?
In a perfect world, all these guys would commit in about mid-June or mid-July, and they'd just all be Trojans and everything would be happy and all that, and you just try to hold on to them at the end. But quite honestly, I kind of enjoy some of the excitement. I kind of enjoy these home visits in the last week or two where you're going into this home and you got to seal the deal. And I think there is a sense of comfort there. So many times these players and their families are coming to our campus. They're coming to our games. They're in our locker room. I enjoy the opportunity to go into their home, to sit on their couch, sit at their dinner table, to eat their mom's cooking. All those things, right. Because I think there is a sense of comfort that kicks in. That it's not just about signing day. That helps moving forward into the fall, into the years to come. And so, all in all, I enjoy the recruiting process. I love the excitement of it. I love the fact that we were able to do what we did. I mean, I can't commend our staff enough for the job that they did on the recruiting trail. But today's just one day. Now we have to get these guys in. We have to develop them and get them ready to go because it's about our football team.
There was less drama this year, but there certainly was some entertainment, as JJ referred to. The class closes with a flourish. Iman Biggie Marshall. Well, he upped the ante. We had like an epic video announcement. There was a teaser trailer yesterday. Have you seen it all now? What else are we going to see, and what does this kid mean as a player?
First of all, I thought Adori's magic box was about as good as it could get. And then Biggie came out today with the video. But I think that's, first of all, that's the era that we're in recruiting. With all of the different websites and whatnot, and the national attention that recruiting's getting. We saw it today. It was, a day-long show there on ESPN. Right. But ultimately, that's the era that we're in, and these kids are embracing it. It's fine. We just need to understand and make sure that our guys are doing it in a classy way, and I really think they did. Even Biggie's video today, it was really cool. It was very well done. It was very well done. Yeah. And, I was proud. He put that hat on, and there's the Coliseum in the background. So all that was great. What does Biggie bring? We get a really big physical corner who's got athleticism, who's confident in his ability, and will not waver and will not shy away from getting nose-to-nose with a receiver and beating him up at the line of scrimmage, which is critical because How many times did we see a hitch screen thrown to the perimeter, a bubble screen thrown to the perimeter, a hitch thrown out to that wide receiver that Biggie's just not going to let you throw? He's going to force you to throw the ball down the field. He's going to try to beat the receivers up. He's going to tackle really well, and that's exactly what you want. When you're looking at a physical corner.
I know this isn't all about him, but him being sort of the headline guy, he plays the game with a different temperament. I mean, he plays really physical, really aggressive, and, like you said, he's not scared of anything. How much does that sort of factor into what you want to build in terms of a mindset amongst these players?
You're dead on, JJ, and I don't think he's the only one. I think you watch Marvell Tell play in the secondary, you watch Akili Ross play, you watch Porter Gustin play, you watch Osa Messina play. These guys play with a chip on their shoulder. That's exactly how I want all 11 players on our defense to play every snap. I mean, we're the bully, and we need to play like the bully, and we need to develop that bully mentality. And I think to do that, you have to bring in some guys that already have that about them, and then that starts to spread in your locker room. So we've got work to do, but these guys, I think, have that mentality that is exactly what we're looking for.
And if there's a thread that I noticed between your two classes that you've signed at USC so far, you seem to really like these versatile sort of two-way players. I mean, obviously we see Adoree, a true two-way player, but a lot of guys that came in, like Juju could have played safety. He ends up at wide receiver this year. Guys like Akili Ross, Osa Messina, Isaiah Langley, others. What do you see in these guys? What do you like about their versatility?
Well, what I like about it is, one, that means you have to have a high football IQ to play both ways. You have to understand the game. You can't just be a corner and that's all you do, or a receiver and that's all you do. When you play receiver and DB, when you play O-line and D-line, when you play linebacker and running back, or linebacker and tight end, it means you get the game. You understand what's going on around you. That only helps on one side of the ball or the other as you move forward. Some of these guys are good enough to where I need to look at them on both sides of the ball. I need to look at Isaiah Langley at wide receiver and corner. I need to look at Akili Ross at wide receiver and DB, because I don't know – we have to do what's in the best interest of USC, and these kids understand that. They want to play. So they give us some versatility that way. They give us some room for movement for our roster, but more importantly, we're getting guys with very high football IQs that ultimately should not only help us in the short term, but help us in the long term.
I also noticed with the class, the star ratings. How much does that play into for you as a coach? I mean, everybody wants the 5-star guy. It helps the recruiting class. It helps, the rankings and all of that. When you guys are evaluating, how much does that come into play, if at all?
It really doesn't. Yeah, I wish, I know it's easy for me to say now, and we've got the #1 class and all that. I'll take it, believe me. You want to compete? If you want to compete and you want to keep score, we'll win at that too. Hey, whatever it is. Right. But the point being, and I'm going to use a couple guys as an example. Cole Smith. I couldn't tell you how many stars this guy has. He's not the tallest. He's not the strongest. He's not the biggest. But I know he's going to make us a better football team. He's got center, offensive lineman written all over him. He's got leader written all over him. He's probably the most unsung guy in this class nobody knows about. Michael Rector, another guy from Loyola High, very versatile. Played at the U.S. Army game as a tight end and a defensive end. He can do a lot of different things. Those are the guys that make you really good. It's easy to go recruit stars, but stars don't make you a team, and we're building a team, and I think that's the most important thing.
It's interesting you mentioned those two guys. Are those two of the kind of guys that maybe you couldn't have recruited last year, and now that you get the extra 10, is that how your strategy changes? Maybe
sure.
that instead of going, well, I just got to get 5-star or elite talents that everyone wants, now I can maybe develop some other guys, as their careers go on.
There's no doubt. Because in your locker room, I don't want everybody feeling like, oh, I've made it. Right? You want guys that are so hungry, that are still hungry, and that's how there's that nice blend. I mean, Cole Smith reminds me of Ryan Khalil. We went round and round as a staff with Ryan Khalil. We watched this film so many times. Is he tall enough? Is he strong enough? Is he big enough? Well, his dad's a coach. Well, all. Next thing I know, the guy's an All-American. He's the highest paid center in the NFL. But he was the key component to a great offensive line for years at SC. And I really think Cole Smith has those same attributes. His dad played in the NFL. His dad was, he's a coach now. Cole Smith wants to be a Trojan. There's something to be said about that. He's going to get in that locker room. He's going to prove to me and to his new offensive line coach and to his teammates he deserves to be here. And that spreads. That rubs off on his teammates.
All right, well, we got one more big segment coming with Sark, breaking down the #1 recruiting class in the country. You are listening to Trojans Live from the Lab.
I'd like to do a special thank you to all the great universities and coaches around the country who have recruited me. The decision has been very difficult to narrow down to one. But after a lot of thought and consideration, I feel confident that the best fit for me for the next 4 years of my life will be the University of Southern California.
Now back to Trojans Live from the lab. Here are Jordan Moore and John Jackson.
That was the voice of five-star linebacker Porter Gustin from the state of Utah, and that leads me into a good question here. Your strategy, it seems, build a fence around Los Angeles and then cherry pick. Explain how you look at it in terms of balancing in-state and out-of-state.
You know, it was really cool for me, Jordan. We had 24 scholarships. Of the 24, 18 are from the state of California. Of those 18, 14 are from Southern California. That's where it all starts for us. You know, we've got too many good players in our backyard off the 110, the 405, the 605, that we'd be remiss not to try to keep these guys here, because if we don't, we're going to have to play against them. The moment we get on an airplane and start looking at kids across the country, we have to make the determination that do these guys have the potential to be first-round draft picks? If they do, then let's go take a look. And then, okay, they fit who we are. They fit what we're about. Okay, now let's start to develop the relationship that's needed. And that's how you get a Chuma Edoga. That's how you get a Ronald Jones. That's how you get a Porter Gustin, an Osa Messina, a Sedware, a Noah Jefferson. These guys are ridiculous talents with unbelievable upside. But if they weren't, that same player is probably 10, 20, 30 miles from here, so we might as well get him and then continue to develop our relationships in Southern California.
Now, how much did this surprise you with the success you had in Texas? That's supposed to be one of those states that there's a big fence around that's hard to get into, but you get a Cedric Ware, you also get Ronald Jones as well, you know, out of Texas. You know, I mean, not necessarily a surprise, but how hard is it to recruit in the state of Texas to get guys to really give up that home state? Because that's one of the states that's really hard to get players out of.
Well, I'll say this. You know, we're obviously very comfortable in Southern California. We've developed relationships with coaching staffs, all these people, and as it gets close to signing day, you feel a little better. I was probably on the most eggshells with those two running backs out of Texas, you know, and knowing Texas, Texas A&M, TCU, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, LSU. I mean, they're all within striking distance of those guys right in Dallas. So credit to Johnny Nansen, our running back coach, in recruiting those two guys. Clay Helton did a fantastic job helping out there of keeping those guys there. But I had the same feeling with Chuma Edoga right in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you go get arguably the top tackle in America. The closer it gets, the more uneasy I get, right? Until they finally show up or until they finally sign. So you get into those hotbed areas; those are the ones that concern you the most. But we're lucky to get them. Those guys are all great players.
You brought in two quarterbacks. You already had Ricky Town here. You bring him in the spring, and then you add in Sam Darnold. I know a guy JJ likes. Maybe talk about the differences between the two, talent-wise, skill set-wise, and why bring in two quarterbacks.
I think first of all, to recognize the quarterback is the most important position in sports.
No question.
I don't care what anybody tells you.
I would say receiver, but okay.
I'd argue.
I don't even think there was a drafted receiver in the Super Bowl this year, JJ.
You know, you look at the NFL playoffs. Who's in the playoffs? Right.
We got Rodney Peete.
Even the most important position in sports.
What's that guy know about quarterbacks?
Yeah, he doesn't know anything. Get him out of here.
Just look at the NFL playoffs. Look at the Super Bowl. I mean, the quality of the quarterback play. Look at the national championship game. Yeah. Those two quarterbacks playing in that game. It's so critical to your success as a football program that we just felt like, one, we had to get our numbers right. We had Ricky commit really early a year ago, and which I thought was big for us. You know, he was committed to Alabama. We were able to flip him back to SC, a kid from Southern California. I thought sent a great message. Sam Darnold, we couldn't say no to. This guy didn't play his junior year. He wasn't on everybody's radar. He shows up at camp this summer and is just ripping the ball all over the field. He's strong. He's athletic. He's competitive. He's a great basketball player. We just couldn't say no. And so we looked at our numbers and we said, you know what, having 5 quarterbacks on scholarship, that's what you really should have, quite honestly. That's what every other team in the country has. I know we're 10 scholarships short, but somewhere in here, some position groups have to meet the quota, and 5 is the right number to have, and so we did it.
Okay, now, this new concept. I thought I knew a lot about recruiting up until this year. When the blue shirt was introduced to me, I had to get a definition myself. First of all, explain the blue shirt for the people listening, and then let's go into a couple scenarios that you were, obviously were put in front of you in this recruiting class.
Right. The blue shirt is a scenario in which, one, a student athlete cannot be recruited by the university, meaning he can't take an official visit, meaning I can't go have an in-home visit in his home, meaning our coaches can't have face-to-face contact with the young man when they're on their campus. They can come and do unofficials with us on our campus. They can contact us. And by doing it that way, these young men can enroll at SC and can start training camp with us and walk on for one day. The second day, I can put them on scholarship, and I essentially can take their scholarship and count it forward into the 2016 recruiting class. And so we utilize that a couple times here this year, and I think it's a scenario for us where we're just trying to get our numbers right, try to get enough depth as we can, and it's a great way to do that. Obviously, it takes a couple scholarships from next year's class, but we think it's the right thing to do for our program.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of players in particular, Clayton Johnston and Deontay Burnett. Both will be in that blue shirt role, coming up in the fall. And then also there's Caleb Wilson, who is the son of Coach Chris Wilson that is over at Sarah, another Sarah guy. So you get a bunch of 4 guys from Sarah in this class. It's amazing. Talk about those guys and, sort of how they fit in, their role, and what they're going to mean to the Trojans in the future.
Well, I think, first of all, Clayton, Deontay, Caleb, I can comment. Yeah, we've been in contact with them. I can't really divulge into the recruiting aspect of it. But what I do know is, come August, we're going to add a few players to our roster that is going to make us a better football team. And so I'm excited about that.
Another sort of interesting strategy it looked like you went into the JC ranks for receivers. How much of that was, obviously, you lose Nelson Aguilar, then you lose sort of George Farmer here late. Is it sort of like an opportunity for an instant impact, or what's the strategy, and it just so happened that your 2 favorite receivers were JC guys?
Well, I wanted to get us a little longer, a little taller, a little more physical at the wide receiver spot. And DeQuan Hampton, Isaac Whitney, both of which 6'4", 6'3", 220, 215-pound type guys that can really win on the perimeter one-on-one. I mean, I don't want to put comparisons on anybody, but when we were really good here, when I was first here, I mean, you start talking Mike Williams, Dwayne Jarrett, Patrick Turner, that bigger, taller, longer receiver that can win one-on-one matchups that force you to put safety help over the top. When you do that, the run game gets better. The slot receiver play gets a lot easier, gets a lot better. So I just felt like we needed that going for us. Also, I think they're really good. And, so you go with the best available at the time. And I look in the future. I look in the future in California of what that position group might be at the high school ranks, and knowing what's coming down the pipe. That the JC route isn't as bad for us right now because I know what's coming.
One player that you lost last year, Leonard Williams, was probably the most impactful player that you had. He'll go on to have a great NFL career, but you replace him with a lot of other guys with a lot of big bodies up front on defense, and athleticism as well. How important was it, not necessarily to replace Leonard, but just to get the numbers that you wanted at that defensive line spot? Because it is a spot that last year we were wondering where you're going to get enough bodies from.
Well, it's how you win games. That's how you win championships, is up front, and we obviously addressed it on the offensive side a year ago. We brought in a tremendous offensive line class. All 5 of those young kids are going to be great players, 3 of which started for us this year on the offensive line, which is, I think back now, like, what were we thinking? 3 true freshmen, but it worked out for us. Now, going to the defensive side, I know we lose Leonard this year, but if you look forward, if you look at how many seniors we have on our defensive front right now going into this fall that are going to be moving on, we felt like we needed to address the defensive front right now. So those guys, 1, could help us this fall, but 2, get a year of maturity, a year of experience for the next year. So that's why you really see 5 defensive linemen that we signed. Also, with the versatility of a Porter Gustin and Osa Messina that can play as edge guys as well, we really tried to beef that up because that's how you win. You win at the line of scrimmage, and that we felt like it was just too important to us. And
finally, a position of need now, tight end. Tyler Petit, you bring him in, and you talked about how valuable he is because that is such a position of need for you.
I love Tyler. Arguably, you could say is the most important kid in this class that we signed, and there's all these high-profile guys. Tyler is an extremely athletic young man. I mean, he can run. He's got great hips, great hand-eye coordination. He's an excellent baseball player, good basketball player. Everything we're talking about. The more you can do, you just get the game. I think Tyler's going to step in and have an immediate impact on our program, and a guy that's going to, again, threaten defenses. Because for us, when we're really good, and JJ, you know this, if you have to defend everybody and you have to defend a lot more schemes, it's hard to stop one person. It's hard to stop one scheme, and Tyler gives us that.
All right.